Well, hello, everyone, and welcome again to the podcast. And I'm really happy for you to get to know Justin Ahn. Welcome, Justin.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I've been looking forward to this conversation. And Justin's company is called Inflow, and we're going to talk about that. And I think you'll find it very interesting just thinking about your branding and how they help people with that. But Justin, as I start with everyone, tell folks a little bit more about yourself and how you've landed where you've landed.
Absolutely. So I started off my design career, like most graphic designers, as a freelance graphic designer. I started working in the local Detroit music scene. So I would do album art, posters, merchandise, that kind of thing for all different kinds of brands and even some small local businesses. And then from there, I ended up moving on to working for a company for about 8 to 9 years. And, I started there as a graphic designer, and I slowly kind of worked my way up to becoming senior designer and then art director and then eventually the creative director. During my time there, I learned a lot. I met some really incredible and very talented people along the way. And at this point, I would actually like to mention that I'm really proud to say that I just closed that chapter of my career last September.
Mhm.
One of the major reasons why my I decided to leave was simply because my own struggles with mental health. The environment I used to work at was a little bit toxic, and so
Mhm.
that really started to erode me away as a person, just both mentally and physically. And so I started Inflow kind of on the side with the hope that it could be a way out. And with the love and support and encouragement and guidance and motivation and more love and everything positive from my wife, who is a clinical psychologist herself, I gained the confidence and the clarity to try to start Inflow
Mhm.
and to really, put myself into that position and take that risk to better myself. Last year we went to APA in 2024 in Seattle, which turned out to be an enormous success. And
Mm.
so successful that I ended up resigning 2 weeks after we got back. So that's kind of
Mhm.
how Inflow really got started, and that's kind of how Inflow is continuing to grow and to continue to kind of move forward right now.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah. That's I love that story, and thanks for your vulnerability and just talking about your own struggles. That's great. So, yeah.
yeah, I've had the wonderful privilege of working with some of the nicest people I've ever met doing Inflow so far. And Inflow is
Mhm.
relatively new, but the people I've met along the way so far have been just awesome and amazing. And so, for me to be able to do the work that I'm so passionate about doing, that I genuinely, love to do, it's not only just seeing, what the impact of design can do for a practice, but being a part of that, being a part of that impact, being a part of that journey for all these different practices and all these different stages that they're at, and by extension, the community that they serve. It's really powerful, and it feels like a privilege for me to be able to do this.
Right, right. Yeah. And I know in just my conversations with people and the consulting I do and that sort of thing that coming up with a name for a practice is really one thing that's I think important to branding, but I guess maybe just kind of walk us through just as you think about branding and why it's important and that whole aspect of things. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, branding is such an important part, like you said. It's very deep. You can kind of see branding as, it's the aesthetics. It's making sure things look nice. It's making sure everything is kind of aligned with the brand. But it goes so much deeper than that, right? Branding, it allows you to tell your story. It allows you to put, your experiences, your unique values, your journey to where you started from to and all the little moments that kind of got you to where you are right now, running your own private practice and growing. Branding allows us to kind of take all that and almost digitizing it in a way and kind of
Hmm.
infusing that into every aspect that comes out of your practice, right? From your letterhead to your website to your logo to the color choices that we make, that should all be consistent. That should all kind of relate back and help kind of tell your story visually.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And so, in thinking about, one of the things, one of the books that I recommend to people is Donald Miller's The Story brand. You might
Mm.
be familiar with it or not, but anyway, when you mentioned just telling your story, I think that's an important piece to it all. You want to just maybe kind of walk us through how you work with people and just kind of that whole branding process.
Yeah, so our approach to the design and kind of working with clients is I would like to say a little bit more loose in the sense that, I understand that every practice is different. And so every practice owner is different and their stories are different and their goals for the practice are different and the stages that they're at in their practice is going to be different. And so we like to kind of start off by just simply having a conversation, just getting to know them, getting to know, what are their goals, what are their values, what exactly are they trying to do? And with that information and that kind of backstory, we're able to kind of then take a step further and really start to focus on, what their branding is going to look like, what they want to try to do, and then kind of where they want to be in the future.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's starting with your why is what I always tell
Mhm.
people is what's the underlying motivations for everything you do really within your practice
Yeah.
in terms of the business side and the marketing side
Yeah.
sort of thing. So yeah, so what sort of as you've done this work, what sort of kind of mistakes do you see people make in trying to get their message out and the branding and that sort of thing?
Yeah. So I would say like the most common, I guess, mistake or pitfall that I see a lot of practices make is an outdated website. I think that, an outdated website, because a website is usually going to be kind of like one of the first interactions that a visitor will have with your practice. And so, making sure that your website is consistent, making sure your website is easy to navigate, making sure your website is intuitive as far as, what a patient or what a visitor may be kind of looking for at that particular moment in their journey on your website. Taking all that
Mhm.
into consideration and kind of developing and designing a website that kind of addresses those, I think is a very powerful thing. And I see quite often people tend to just kind of put a website together that is more informational. Whereas, we approach design and we approach website building kind of, how do we address these questions? How do we kind of guide people and visitors through the design, through the practices, processes and services to kind of really kind of tailor that experience for them.
Right, right. Yeah, it's I've heard people speak of this in terms of when you go to a website, you want to kind of have a clear picture of what you should do when you get there.
Yeah.
And a lot of time, yeah, I think in our fields, people are looking for some kind of help with things, and that's again another tangent we could go on is the importance of creating a niche for yourself,
Mhm.
of having a really kind of specific issue or thing that you, number one, enjoy helping people with, but also something that people see you as an expert in. And so that attracts people, I think, more by having that. And
Yeah, having
then,
having a
yeah.
nice, clear, focused goal, a
Hmm.
clear, focused kind of mission for your practice and the group that you want to kind of communicate and work with. I think that's a very
Right,
powerful.
right. One thing that I think a lot of people maybe might be curious about is just thinking about with the whole branding piece, knowing kind of where to start in terms of maybe
Mm.
coming up with a logo, what colors to use, that sort of thing. What do
Yeah.
you, yeah, what advice can you give around those things?
As far as, like I said, it really comes back to your story. I approach design very much kind of trying to infuse, people's stories into the brand. So I would say, when it comes to the logo design, it really is kind of up to you and what you feel best represents you in your practice, right? It should be
Mhm.
symbolic, but at the same time, it should also be relatable and it should also be kind of appropriate for the goals and the values of your practice.
Mhm.
I would say, yeah, it's a little hard to really be able to pinpoint kind of like where to start with that with the logo design. It's
Mhm.
very much like just kind of what resonates with you, what would resonate with
Uh-huh.
that also resonates with your audience, with the target, with your community.
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of
And I know
building
that.
from it.
Yeah, and I think, thinking, I know, like we had mentioned before, people thinking about what to name their practice. There's lots of different directions you go. And one of the things I would say in my own experience that I did well early on, there's been a lot of mistakes I've made along the way, but one of the things was in naming my practice, and that the name really helped with my SEO. And you mentioned the online presence. I mean, Kingsport, Tennessee is the city I'm in, and so it's Kingsport Counseling Associates. And so
Mhm.
fortunately, that name was available when I went into all of this. And so, yeah, and so that's helped a great deal with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, definitely. Taking into consideration as everything we do nowadays is online. So, at least being cognizant and being aware that, all the decisions that we make for your practice, for your design kind of relates back to SEO. It takes into consideration, how will this look like on Google? How will this look like on different search engines? And how do we sort of how do we make sure that we're doing the right thing to really optimize the way your practice is found?
Yes, yes. So what are some of the what would you say are some of the key elements to that as far as what you've found so far
For
of
like for SEO.
yeah, 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 like SEO and just helping people find your practice.
Yeah, SEO is a very big one. There's certain things that we can kind of do on the website that will really help to basically allow the search engine to quickly find you. So, simple things such as kind of making sure that your file names are named in a way that SEO will find it, right? Even if it's a simple icon for like a phone icon for your contact information, making sure that you're naming those files in a way where SEO will be able to pick up on that and use it is really important. Also, using alternative texts, kind of using meta tags, stuff like that on the back end to make sure that, basically you want to make sure every element of your website is visible, not just what people see,
Yeah.
is a really good way to kind of approach that. There's SEO is a pretty deep and complicated sort of subject. And so we do as much as we can with what we can, but there's definitely more specialized companies out there that can really dig into the code of your website that will then help your practice get found a little bit easier.
Right, right. Yeah, that's a whole top, as you're right.
Yeah.
SEO, search engine optimization, is a whole topic in and of itself. But
Mm.
yeah, so with Inflow, tell folks how you work with people and how maybe they can get started, and what that looks like.
So yeah, so we like I said, we genuinely love to work with our clients. Working with our clients and working in the healthcare field has been such a privilege. And we really like to try to get to understand our clients, get to understand what their story is, what their goals are, and try to infuse and incorporate that into the designs that we create for them.
Yeah, so if somebody were to get started with you, what would that look like for them besides contacting you,
Yeah.
obviously?
Yep.
But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
So
yep.
what?
So we would just set up a quick meeting. We would kind of discuss kind of what we're trying to do, what the goals are, what we're trying to achieve. And then the design process is relatively straightforward. We will come up with a couple different sort of initial concepts, initial designs based off of what I think would be a good direction based on what you think is a good direction, and some sort of combining the two into into a hybrid sort of design. And then from there, we just kind of refine, right? We just take a look at all the designs we have. We really like, really, we can decide we really like this direction and this direction. And then from there, we just refine until we're happy with a very consistently design brand.
Yeah, yeah. Tell us about some of the uh, people, or you don't necessarily have to disclose things, but I mean,
Mhm.
some of the projects you've worked on that you've really felt really good about.
Yeah, we work with a lot of new practice owners. These are people who have either worked at organizations and are kind of branching off, or people that are just kind of just getting their career started. Like I said, I had the privilege of working with some of the nicest people, and I'm really proud of the fact that I worked with some clients who we were able to really define and refine their brand and really come up with a visual identity for them that is very representative of who they are and their approach to therapy.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, so tell folks about the best way to get in touch with you and how they can maybe get started in starting this conversation for
Yep.
themselves.
Yep, they can visit our website. It's going to be inflow-designs.com. And then on
Hmm.
there, there's going to be contact information and a couple forms that they can fill out to kind of get started, as well as our pricing and kind of the different services that we offer. One of the
Right,
things that,
right.
one of the things that we're really proud of is our transparent pricing structures. So, when you first start working with us and in the first meeting, you'll know right away what the cost of the project will be. There won't be any sort of, hidden fees or any sort of surprise, add-ons at the very end, what the price that we tell you in the beginning is going to be the price that you work with throughout the project.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. And we'll have links in the show notes and the show summary for help people to get that to that easily. And Justin, I'm so glad you joined us, and hopefully we will have more conversations here in the future just about branding and how people can be helped with all of that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. It was a pleasure.